We say the construction company, what will be its vision? You remember? To be the best, I will just, maybe, to be the best construction company for roads, bridges, buildings, and waterways. Right? To be the best. This one, what it is trying to do is to have financial services to make sure that that can be done, isn't it? So it provides financial services, admin support, filing, cleaning, security, to make sure it contributes to this. This one is supervising the actual projects of constructing bridges, roads, buildings, etc. And also monitoring and evaluating what they are doing. In fact, there is also, they call it inspections, supervision, inspecting, monitoring and evaluation. While these operations, this one will make sure vehicles are available to transport the supplies to the construction sites. It will have equipment available at the construction site. It will provide supplies, bitumen, njerwa, quarry stones, what, to the sites. But all these three, their aim is what? To make sure that that company achieves construction as the best company. So, when you have this in mind, when you try to see how the organization operates, it tallies very well to say each organization will be unique when setting out to implement a knowledge management strategy. This configuration here might be a little generic, but when you come to actual activities that are to be done, you find that there will be one organization will be slightly different from the other. Are we clear there? We are, right? So it means if we have to achieve our strategic management, we must learn to have in place strategic decision making. When we are talking of strategic decision making, the implication is that the decisions that we have to make must have a bearing in the future. The decisions that we have to make must have a bearing in the future. So, strategic decision making refers to when a business basis, it's short-term decision on the longer-term vision for the direction of the organization. In other words, what I am saying, strategic decision making is making decisions today to make sure that this decision that we make will have bear fruits in future. What it may entail is use of quantifiable goals that contribute to its overall mission, goals, and objectives. In other words, the strategic decision that you make may be in form of small little decisions, but if you bring them together, they are meant to achieve or contribute to the overall mission, goals, and objectives of the organization. So, other people therefore will say strategic decisions are those decisions that have an influence over years, decades, and even beyond the lifespan of the project. Once the decision has been made, it is very unlikely to be altered in the short term. So you see, I told you that the decisions a long time ago was to have girls sit there, boys sit here. But when the decisions were made that now we need the girls to feel equally liable to whatever the boys are getting, and they should be assertive. It has taken a long time. Up to now, we no longer subscribe to the old decision. So it is true to say it takes decades, years, and even beyond the lifetime of a project. Usually when we talk of programs and projects, and when we use strategic management approach, we have set targets in form of time. So a project will have a beginning and an end. A project will have when it starts and when it ends. In terms of just clarity for this particular clause, strategic decision making, if only you can understand it to say this is decision making which is meant to have an effect in future, that is most important. And that it doesn't just change in short term, no. If you have made a decision that is strategic, it will be years or decades or even beyond the project, it will still be applicable. In the past in Malawi, we use one-party system, isn't it? As part of strategic decision making, we made a decision that it should be multi-party. From that time up to now, we are still a multi-party. We have now improved even on the multi-party because in the past, a party could just have 31, 34, 35% votes and rule the country, which means about 65% are not very happy with that party. So now they improved it to have a 50+1, so that there should be a rational and reasonable majority of that party to rule the country. So those are strategic decisions that were made. So such decisions cannot be altered in a short time. I would like to go to this model, but first of all, maybe before I go, do you need any clarification about strategic decision making, adaptive strategy, and the other one was IT? driven strategy, those three. Oh, thank you very much. 6:30. Thank you. Yeah, so as I was saying, if we don't have any questions about those three, IT-driven strategy, the general clarity of understanding of what we mean by IT-driven strategy, strategy which has to use information and technology to make sure it's part of the initiative for the future, isn't it? That becomes very, very important. Then we have this one, knowledge adaptive strategy, meaning if we have to choose what knowledge to use, it should be the kind of knowledge or information which can be adapted by our organization. In other words, we can't just borrow something because it's working there and we put it in our organization. It is not going to work. In fact, sometimes when they are talking about democracy, sometimes we tend to start thinking, maybe it's not very African. That's why African leaders don't want to move out of power. It's not African, it's Western, but we have been forced to adapt it. What was there to us was chieftainship, that was Swaziland. Yes, it has gone to autocracy because there's limitation on toleration of democratic systems. They are still having a little bit of democracy because they have a parliament where people vote. It's like the one-party system we had. People still voted people into parliament, but it was one party. What they don't want in Swaziland is to have any parties at all. They themselves, King Mswati, full stop. He owns the whole land. He owns the hotels. He owns the roads. Everything belongs to the king. Everybody else just works to support the king. But it is working. Do you know how it is working? I am an offspring of Mswati myself. But it works very well. How many wives does he got? Madam, do you know how many wives? You don't know. What about, do you know how many wives Mswati has? 15. No. I think this year it will be 16. But do you know how it works? When he was a young man, he had one wife. Then come second year, the elders sit down and they start thinking, which tribe in our small tribes here is most troublesome? Then they find that tribe where there is troublemakers against the king. They tell the king, get a wife there. So once he gets a wife there, that tribe starts saying, the king is one of us, he's our son-in-law. So they can't make problems for him. Next time they will look. So it means now, as we are talking, 15 tribes They are all for the king. So as the king grows, as the kingdom grows, what happens? There is peace. Of course, this is what we call hypothetical, because there are still elements of conflict in Swaziland who want multi-party democracy and they want to wipe off the kingship. So, knowledge adaptive strategy and also information strategy. If we are clear about this, then let me talk about this new subject. We have what we call a rational model of a strategy. The key word in this one is the rational model of a strategy. We are looking at all these variants of strategies, the models, but this one is qualifying to say it is a logical step-by-step approach to coming up with a strategy. It requires the organization to analyze its existing situations or circumstances. I should close this, right? And it also requires the organization to generate possible strategies from the functional responsibilities of its parts, the departments and the what? Sections and the units. This becomes important because one is a logical step-by-step method. The organization itself must make sure it analyzes its situation, circumstances. Do you remember what we were talking about? Internal, we had the internal and external analysis, isn't it? You remember what those were? Internal were what? You remember SWOT? SWOT analysis. You remember it? Yeah. S was for what? W O T. So this rational model says that as you are going step by step, you cannot forget use of the SWOT analysis. You must analyze its existing situations or circumstances. That's why there is the SWOT analysis. So in the SWOT analysis, you go list down in that organization strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then it requires the organization to generate possible strategies from the functional responsibilities of its parts on how you can actually address those gaps which you got in the SWOT analysis. So the diagram here, I deliberately put it there because it looks nice and explains very well what is on the right. We have the mission. From the mission, we have the strategic appraisal. When we say strategic appraisal, we mean this analysis. That analysis, strategic appraisal. Appraisal meaning assessment of how the future we think is going to be. Then external appraisal, right? Internal appraisal, strengths, you remember? Internal appraisal, strengths and weaknesses. External appraisal is what? External. threats and opportunities. I mean, do you understand there? The internal appraisal will be strengths and weaknesses. The external appraisal will be the opportunities and threats, because these are they are from outside the organization. And then if you look at these, how you deal with this, you think of a strategy on how you are going to deal with this and how you are going to deal with this to come up with a strategic appraisal which is going to help to come up with objectives, strategic options, meaning alternatives, and strategic implementation of your strategy. That makes it very simple. Here is the current position. This is the current position now. This one is the choice that we get out of analysis of these three. We put it in place so that we can implement the strategic implementation, which is action, the actual activities that we are going to do. What is happening is that as we are implementing the strategic implementation, we do get results, isn't it? When we implement, we do get results, and these results could be positive or negative. These positive and negative will tell us whether our mission remains the same, or if it is the same, do we have to make a reassessment of this so that the process can go properly? Because the results there, when we start implementing, it is going to have positive and negative. The positives are the good results. The negatives will be where we are failing to achieve our objectives. Are we clear there? I think we are, isn't it? This picture, it just looks complicated. It's not complicated. It simplifies how we go step by step by being rational in our model. The word rational, if we had to paraphrase it, it's like logical. To be rational is to be logical. If you drink too much water, what happens? Okay, no. If you drink too much beer, what happens to you? You get drunk, eh? And if you drink too much, what will happen to you? You get intoxicated. And you continue drinking, what will happen to you? Eh? Blackout. Now, what I am trying to get at, this you have seen getting information about the activity, isn't it? Do you think if you tell somebody, if you continue drinking like this, you are going to have a blackout? Is it logical? Yes. Because in the past you have seen drinking, then he drinks more, We have seen somebody getting blackout, isn't it? Experience has shown that what you are proposing is going to happen, can happen to this one. So it is rational and logical. That's why they call it logical step-by-step approach. It's just like, it's same, like when I say Okay, I'm going to start 2, 4, 8, 10. What will be the next number? 12. And the next number? 14. The next number? 16. Is this logical? It's therefore rational. Mukumvesi for a minute. You can actually tell from past experience that this is likely to happen. It's rational and logical. So the model helps you to make sure that you make decisions on coming up with a strategy that is rational and logical. Hapa zambekete mzakara mabwana kusogoroku. Don't forget this: logical decision making, rational decision making. So this is just expanding diagrammatic representation of the rational strategy model, right? Now, what is the organizational business ecosystem? It's another very important concept which we must capture. And I think after we have done this, I'll come back to how we come up with a strategic plan. How we use strategic management to come up with a strategic plan. An organizational business ecosystem is business situation made up of networks of organizations involved in the delivery of a product or services. In other words, each time you hear the word ecosystem, what does it imply to you? Ecosystem, it means it is something that is a system of environmentally working together components. It's a system of components which are environmentally working together. So it includes customers, suppliers, distributors, competitors, government agencies, and many others. All those components that are in the situation or circumstance in the environment are part of the ecosystem. So you need, if you are to be in an organization, you need the organizational business ecosystem known to you so that you can come up with strategic management. The interaction within the ecosystem can be in form of cooperation and on or sometimes competition. Okay? This one is important. When we are talking of ecosystem, you remember they say that sometimes you try to disturb the components of the ecosystem, you will have disturbed the environment. Is that not so? I'll give an example. Do you know what hyenas do? Hyenas? Do you know what they do? Hyenas. Hyenas are scavengers. Scavengers, you know the word scavenger? It's those animals that eat rotten things, right? Usually they are hyenas, vultures, you know vultures? Crows, these are scavengers. Are they useful in our ecosystem? Yes. Yes. Why? Why are they useful? They eat all the rotten things that fall dead dogs on the road, what, in dust bins, what. They eat those things. So they are part of the ecosystem. If you remove all hyenas, all crows, all vultures, what will happen? There will be disease, isn't it? Too many rotten things. So components of the ecosystem in business are customers, suppliers, distributors, competitors, government agencies to come up with rules, regulations, and everything. Are we clear about that? Secondly, the interaction of those units that are in the ecosystem can be in form of cooperation or competition. The system of suppliers, customers, there will be customers not only to us, but also to our competitors, isn't it? So they will affect us. Suppliers the same, distributors the same. Our own same, doing the same business are our competitors. Government agencies will come up with rules, regulation, but it can be in form of cooperation as well as competition. So we need to know the business ecosystem that we are working in. Thirdly, the ecosystem ensures that all components of the organization impact on each other. Even as we are talking of the, what we call, the vultures, the hyenas, and the crows, do they impact on our life? Do you think they impact on our life? Yes. If they remove all the rotten things, maybe that's why we are still healthy. You understand what I mean? So the parts that are in the ecosystem must also actually impact on each other, create relationships that is constantly evolving and within which the organization must remain flexible and adaptive in order to progress, grow, or survive. It looks compact or mouthful, but it's a very important statement. These parts must have a bearing on what we are doing. As they do, they create a relationship between those parts and our ecosystem. They create a relationship. And that relationship is always evolving. When we say evolving, what do we mean? Evolving. Changing. Sometimes, maybe at the beginning, the relationship is aggressive against each other. But eventually, what does it become? It becomes more adaptive, understanding of each other, right? So, the organization therefore must remain flexible. Flexible. Must remain flexible to be able to grow, progress, and also survive. In the ecosystem, one of the big things is, they call it the survival of the fittest in the ecosystem. The survival of the fittest. If we as human beings or Homo sapiens cannot survive in this ecosystem, other animals will survive. Us will vanish. So an organization, it's the same. It must make sure it remains flexible, adaptive, to make sure that it can progress, grow, or survive. Finally, this concept of business ecosystem is thought to be helpful to the organization to consider how to succeed in an environment which is changing constantly, in competition, and can sometimes be very volatile. This concept just by itself gives you some kind of guide. Caution, it's a caution to you to be flexible and adaptive to what is happening in the business ecosystem. You can't start business and assume that everything will be fine. No. If you start business, you must make sure that you are open and flexible to whatever happens and be ready to have strategies to mitigate negative impact. I don't want to go beyond this. If you have any questions now, maybe we can have them. Yes, madam, you have a question? I have methods in which yes, someone wants to ask a question. You want? I wanted to know about adaptive in the IT. The IT. IT and technology. Are they similar? Adaptive in the sense that when you have technology, information technology, and you have technology, by itself, it is adaptive. If you are doing something without technology, that is one approach. If you have to use technology, you must make sure that it adapts to the current situation or it's compatible. Maybe that's even the better word, compatible with what you are doing. So, the information technology itself is what we call has a component of being malleable to adaptation. Kamwavesa, just like in the past, we are not using this, we are using blackboard and chalk, isn't it? But to make sure that this is adapted and it works in the same way, do you know what they have done? They have made this, instead of having this blackboard there and I use chalk, it has been adapted to be in front of you. It's adapted, isn't it? It's the IT form of the blackboard. And I can be typing here while there it is showing. So IT itself is adaptive. Another word for adaptive is compatibility. You know, compatible, working together, or it is suitable to work together with whatever you have. Compatibility. Yeah? Another question? No questions. You people have not worked before, have you? You have not worked before. You have. What is it in your organization where you think some of these apply? Like, okay, what changes happened to your organization when you are there? We were just trying to improve like the systems that were used in the IT department. In which department? IT department. IT, yes. So they were trying to make the system work faster. Okay. Yeah, because before it was a bit slow. Okay. They wanted to make some improvements to that. Aha. You see? She says they had a system in place, but it was very slow, isn't it? Now they have to adapt technology which will make it faster, isn't it? Now, for that technology to know, you remember the things that you do step by step. You have to know knowledge, what, those things. And then you adapt it so that if you people don't know how to operate the new system, will it work? No. You need training, you need knowledge about how it works and so on. And it should be compatible with what you already have. I'll give you maybe a simple example is your organization has got 4x4s. You know 4x4? Zimagari moto za zikuru. And then you come, you say you want to improve. You buy tires from a tractor company. Will they fit in with your 4x4? You have to make sure that you look for things that will be compatible with what you have. Yeah, so that's a good example. Someone wants another example? Someone wants to try another example? No? Yes, Madam at the back? No, no. What's your name again? Sharon. Oh, Sharon who? Second name? First is Sharon. Second name?
We don't have a second name.
Oh, it's Sharon, that's all.
Sharon.
Okay, Sharon, okay. Were you able to follow? You are, right? Okay. Sharon.
So the other example can be here on the campus.
Yes.
At first, they were using those cameras for online students.
Yeah.
So it wasn't working because the voices were not yet clear. So they had to change that so that other students.
This one.
Yes.
Okay.
Other students can be able to attend online classes.
Okay. So like I am talking, they can hear.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh? This one. Oh, okay. So I'm being heard there, but they just said, I thought it is for very clever people. So that is a very good example also. But you now have to know how to use it, isn't it? You can't just bring in new technology without knowledge. Anything else? No. I'll ask now. I gave you assignment. How is it going? It's going okay? Okay. At least that's one feedback. What about madam?
How many pages, sir?
I said, if you came up to 2 pages, that's enough. What I know is you are going to use a computer, isn't it? Yeah, you can make all your nice arguments in 2 pages and it should be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. What we want is to find out whether after what you have gone through, you understood the subject and you can apply it. That is what is important. That's why sometimes they ask for examples, right? So you are you also on the Sharon? Are you also on the WhatsApp? You are on WhatsApp. So, which means she's also you got the midterm assignment for this class? No, find out from your colleagues. Yeah. Now for you, if you are following, we will try and see how we can fill in the gaps, because I'll be sharing you the notes. Okay? Yeah, now it's just 4 minutes to 12. I don't think I can start another subject, but 4 minutes to